He made the honor roll in 2025, and 2 weeks later, he was gone. The school called it a mentorship program. No notice, no return, no questions allowed. But then, a vice principal found a file she wasn't supposed to see. Inside, 18 missing names, a blacked-out referral form, and her own son's photo. This wasn't a scholarship. This was a recruitment. And someone's been erasing students for over a decade. Now she's risking everything to expose it. Subscribe if you believe no student should vanish for being too smart. Lena Marlowe stood at the foot of the school's west hallway, the one students barely noticed and staff quietly avoided. The class portraits hung in a neat timeline, year after year of perfectly posed smiles in front of the same navy backdrop. One frame had been removed recently, the bare hook still stuck in the plaster. The hallway smelled faintly of marker ink and old tile polish. She carried a clipboard under one arm and a slim manila folder tucked beneath it. Her task was straightforward: update honor roll plaques for the school's 20th annual academic awards night. A mindless job, ideal for the newly promoted vice principal still trying to prove she could handle the politics as much as the policy. She hadn't expected to get stuck on a name. Aria Lynn, class of 2007, top 5%, science medalist, full scholarship to Northwestern, according to the outdated bio card taped behind the previous year's frame. But when Lena cross-referenced her file in the digital student system, Aria wasn't listed anywhere. No graduation record, no diploma, no withdrawal either. She scrolled the internal database again on her school-issued tablet. Still blank. Weird. She jotted a note. IT glitch, probably. Maybe Aria's record had been migrated off during the big system overhaul in 2010. Except Lena knew what system migrations looked like. Data got messy, yes, but people didn't vanish entirely. Not a student with honors, medals, and college placement. She flipped open the folder and cross-checked the list of honor roll students that year. Aria's name was there, printed neatly in 12-point Arial, third from the top. But when she scanned down the yearbook photos of that same spring semester, Aria wasn't in the club photos. Not in Science League, not in Chess Club, not even in the senior class composite. It wasn't just the record that was missing. Aria Lynn had been erased. That night, Lena sat at her kitchen table with her laptop, a mug of black tea, and a low hum of static playing from the underused radio in the corner. Her son Miles was upstairs, headphones on, eyes probably locked on the muted screen of whatever late-night physics tutorial he'd discovered this week. He had that brain, not just smart, but obsessed, and lately, too quiet. She typed the name into a general search engine. Aria Lynn, Morning Ridge High School, 2007. Results came up for a marketing executive in Seattle and a PhD student at Stanford, but neither had attended Morning Ridge, nor did they match the photo Lena vaguely remembered. She clicked over to alumni records. Nothing. Maybe it's nothing, she muttered aloud, though the tightness in her chest suggested otherwise. She pulled up the full honor roll database, still archived in a Google sheet cobbled together by her predecessor, now retired in Florida and unreachable by phone. One row at a time, she traced names. 2006, complete. 2007, Aria Lynn, no grad record. 2008, clean. 2009. Fine, 2010, pause. Tasha Nguyen. The name rang a distant bell. Lena clicked the attached bio link. It was broken. She searched the internal database. No graduation, no transfer, no withdrawal. Again. She scrolled further. Every year, one student, just one. Sometimes a sophomore, sometimes a junior. All honor roll students, all gone without a trace. Her hand hovered over the mouse as she selected the current year's list. At the top of the honor roll, just published last week, was Miles Marlowe. She felt the breath catch in her throat. In the morning, Lena stood in the hallway again, this time staring at the freshly mounted 2024 Honor Roll plaque. The gold plate gleamed under the flickering fluorescent light. She'd called it in last week. Engraved names, one of them hers. She should have felt pride. Instead, she felt dread. The names she'd verified, double-checked. But there it was again. One line stood out. Selena Ortiz, 11th grade. Honors Science. Lena didn't recognize the name, not from clubs, not from the school council, not even in the AP Bio class that only had 12 students total. And yet, she was on the list. Back at her office, Lena paged through the physical student files. She found Selena's folder easily. Perfect grades, attendance 100%, but no class schedule, no extracurriculars, no counselor assignments, just a printed summary and a recent report card. It felt manufactured. Her phone buzzed. Miles, text. "Can I stay late for group study? Chem project." She stared at the screen for a long moment. Lena, "Sure, home by 6. Miles, 7. "Okay?" Lena, "Fine, dinner's at 7:30. He didn't reply. She minimized the message and opened a new search. Selena Ortiz, plus Morning Ridge, plus residency. Nothing, not a single trace. Lena closed her laptop. Something was wrong. Lena hadn't meant to dig this deep, not on a school night, not on a Thursday when she still had a board report due by morning. But by 10:47 p.m., she was surrounded by folders, paper, not digital, the kind most administrators had forgotten existed. The file room was 3 floors below the main office, past the defunct basement computer lab, and down a hallway that still smelled like film developer and mouse droppings. No one ever came down here except the janitor and, occasionally, Mr. Renner from the theater department looking for old lighting gels. She flipped through the 2007 Honor Roll binder again. The physical list didn't match the archived Google sheet. 2 names were missing from the paper version, Aria Lin and Vincent Choi. Vincent wasn't in the school records either. That made 2. She turned on the desk lamp and started comparing each year's honor roll list against the graduation programs. There was a pattern. From 2007 to 2022, exactly 1 name each year had been quietly removed between the spring honor roll and the graduation ceremony. 1 student, always high-achieving, always from the honor roll list, always scrubbed, always before the end of the school year. She rubbed her temple. Could it be that simple? She whispered. Could someone, or some system, have been deliberately removing a student each year? Why? Where were they going? The next morning, Lena arrived early enough to see the cafeteria ladies setting up trays of scrambled eggs and banana bread. She skipped breakfast and went straight to the guidance office. Dr. Joseph Wynn was already at his desk, sipping black coffee and reading a thick manila folder. He looked up as she knocked on the door frame. "Vice Principal Marlowe," he said with a polite smile. "Early start?" "I need to ask you about a student," she said, "from your older records." His eyes flicked to the stack of files beside him. "Go on. Do you remember Aria Lin, class of 2007? Dr. Wynn leaned back in his chair, coffee in hand. "Of course. Brilliant in biology. I wrote her college letter myself. She was accepted early to Stanford, I believe. She's not in our graduation records." The smile thinned. "Database error," he said. "We had some record migration issues around that time. A few files didn't transfer cleanly to the new system." Lena nodded, but her fingers itched to write something down. "What about Vincent Choi?" she added. Wynn didn't blink. "Transferred out. Family moved to Pennsylvania. And Tasha Nguyen." His jaw flexed. That was a difficult case. Tasha's parents withdrew her without notice. Domestic situation. I believe she finished high school through independent study. Lena paused. "They all made the honor roll." "That doesn't surprise me," he said lightly, but his hand moved to close the folder in front of him. "Dr. Wynn, do we have any contact information for Tasha?" He hesitated just a fraction too long. "No," he said finally. "That file's sealed. It was a board decision." Her brow furrowed. "Sealed? Why?" Wynne didn't answer. Instead, he folded his hands in front of him, an old habit she recognized as a shutdown signal. "If there's a concern with your son, Lena, I'm happy to meet with him." She stood a little straighter. "This isn't about Miles." He smiled again. "Isn't it?" Lena left without replying. At home, she opened the filing cabinet in the hallway that had been untouched for years. Somewhere in there were Miles' progress reports from middle school, his old IEP evaluations, even the behavioral slip he got in 7th grade for correcting a teacher's math on the board. She found the stack labeled High School, Miles, 2024, and began flipping. Honor Roll certificate, science team letter, and then a form she hadn't seen before. Subject referral, gifted placement initiative submitted by Dr. Joseph Wynne. Dated February 3, 2024. Category, discrete cognitive acceleration. Note, approved for Track C, parental notification waived. She blinked. Parental notification waived. She grabbed her phone and dialed the main school line. When the front office picked up, she kept her voice flat. "This is Vice Principal Marlowe. Can you connect me to the board liaison's office?" 30 minutes later, she was in a Zoom meeting with Miriam Alcott, the liaison between the district and the school board. Alcott was smooth, polished, with sharp eyes and a constantly unreadable expression. She wore a fitted blazer and a soft blue blouse that looked expensive and impersonal. "I just have a few quick questions," Lena said, trying to sound casual, "about the Gifted Placement Initiative." "Of course," Alcott said. "That's a legacy program. One of the district's older enrichment tracks. We don't promote it heavily anymore, but it's still active for certain referrals." "Track C," Lena asked. "Advanced mentorship, usually off-campus placements." "With parental permission?" Alcott paused. "Technically, consent is implied unless a parent opts out within 14 days of referral. That clause is in the district handbook." Lena's voice lowered. "How long has this program been running?" "Long before either of us were in the system." "And how many students are selected per year?" Alcott smiled, pleasant and vague. "Few. It's highly selective." Lena stared at the screen. "Is there a reason the files are sealed?" she asked. Alcott blinked. "I'm sorry. The referral forms, the ones for students like Arya Lin, Vincent Choi, and Tasha Nguyen, they're all sealed by the board." Alcott's smile never faded. "I'm afraid I can't comment on personnel or student privacy matters. Vice Principal Marlowe, if you have a specific concern regarding your son, I suggest you schedule a board hearing." The call ended moments later. That night, Lena waited in the kitchen while the pasta water boiled. Miles came down the stairs, hoodie on, eyes shadowed. "You staying for dinner?" she asked. He hesitated. "Can I eat later? I've got a call with the chem group." "Who's in the group?" "Just a few of us. Selena, Ethan, Jamal. You don't know them?" "Selena Ortiz." Miles looked up. "Yeah, why?" "She's new, isn't she?" He shrugged. "Sort of, transferred in like last fall." Lena took a breath. "Miles, you're not in any kind of special program, are you? Something Dr. Wynne suggested?" His expression shifted, guarded, confused, cautious. "I don't know. He just said it was a mentorship thing. Said I'd get access to college contacts, early application help. It sounded good." "And you didn't tell me?" "He said it wasn't a big deal, that you'd be fine with it." Lena's stomach dropped. "Has anyone asked you to go anywhere? Off campus?" Miles blinked. "Number. But they mentioned something about a summer intensive. I don't think it's even local." "Who's they?" He hesitated again. "Selena said she got the same invite." Lena's hands tightened on the countertop. She'd closed her eyes around midnight, but her mind kept replaying the phrase from the gifted placement form. Parental notification waived. as if her signature, her presence, her role in Miles's life had been quietly edited out of the decision, as if she didn't matter. By morning, her headache pulsed like a second heartbeat behind her eyes. She brewed coffee, skipped breakfast, and by 6:55 a.m. was parked outside the Morning Ridge Public Library. She hadn't been here in years, not since Miles was small enough to nap on beanbags during story time. The parking lot was empty except for a red compact car with duct-taped windows. The librarian unlocked the doors exactly at 7. Inside, the air smelled like paper and coffee grounds. Lena went straight to the public terminals and logged in with a burner email. She didn't trust her school laptop anymore. She started with Tasha Nguyen, the name doctor. Wynn had tried to dismiss so quickly. The school records said she'd been withdrawn mid-semester in 2010. No contact since, no follow-up. Just a digital absence. But Lena knew how to dig. Old blog comments, yearbook scans, a church bulletin from 2012 that listed a prayer request for a Tasha N., now going by Jess, a note about continued strength and healing. It was a lead. She ran the name Jess Nguyen with a small-town zip code she'd found buried in an archived church PDF. Eventually, it turned up a part-time gas station clerk in Bridgeville, a town 2 hours east. Lena stared at the listing. There she was, aged, thinner, eyes a little wary in the outdated staff badge on the website, but definitely Tasha. Still here, still traceable. She grabbed her keys and left a single sticky note on the kitchen counter for Miles. Errands. Be home by dinner. Text me if plans change. Mom. Bridgeville was the kind of place that hadn't changed since the 70s. The diner still had pie towers. The gas station had a coin-operated air pump. And the station's convenience store carried more expired candy than groceries. Lena pulled into the lot and sat for a moment, staring through the windshield. Inside, a young woman with cropped black hair rang up a pack of cigarettes for a man in camouflage. She was thinner than the girl in the photo, paler too, but her eyes were unmistakable, sharp and slightly haunted. When the man left, Lena stepped inside. The bell above the door gave a weak jingle. "Help you?" Tasha asked. "I hope so," Lena said gently. "I'm not here to bother you. I just need to ask a few questions. About Morning Ridge." About 2010, Tasha's face changed instantly. Her shoulders pulled in. Her hands moved closer to her chest, like shielding herself. "I don't talk about that," she said, voice flat. "I think my son's been pulled into the same program that took you." Tasha stared. "He made the honor roll?" Lena nodded. Tasha looked down, then motioned for Lena to follow her outside. Around the back of the station, behind the dumpster, there was a faded bench. "You have 5 minutes," she said, lighting a cigarette. "After that, I go back to pretending this never happened." Tasha told her everything in clipped, deliberate sentences. She'd been invited to something called the Mentorship Initiative. Promised early college access, exposure to top researchers, government internships. Dr. Wynn had pitched it as a once-in-a-lifetime head start. Her parents signed, trusting the school. It wasn't what they promised, Tasha said, voice hollow. She was taken out of her regular classes, assigned private sessions with a woman she only knew as Director M, transported off campus for weekend tests. Emotional evaluations, ethical simulations, decision-making drills that pushed her until she broke. They told her she was unstable, that she had a non-compliant disposition. When she resisted, they reported her as a behavioral risk and removed her from the school entirely. "No transcript, no diploma, nothing," Tasha said. "My parents were threatened with legal action if they fought it." Lena's stomach knotted. "Why didn't anyone say anything?" Tasha took a long drag. "Because they only pick one student a year. Just one. No one notices a single missing face." Back in the car, Lena sat in silence for a long time. Tasha had given her one final piece of advice before disappearing back inside. Don't go to the board. Don't go to the school. They'll bury it again. If you want the truth, find the others. That night, Lena pulled up the honor roll list again. She wrote down the names, one from each year, from 2007 to 2022. 18 students. Some were easy to trace. College bios, forgotten alumni pages. Most weren't. Some had missing digital footprints. Others had abrupt endings, profiles that stopped updating, social media that vanished. She picked 3 names from nearby towns and made a fresh folder. Honor Roll Anomalies, handwritten on the cover. At the top, she added a photo of Miles, and beneath it, one sentence. This is not going to happen to my son. The next morning, Lena sat in the school's copy room, pretending to review facility request forms while watching the internal email server on her laptop. She'd created a dummy admin request and sent it to herself, just to blend in. The real goal: access the board's internal folders. She'd found something odd the night before while using an old administrative login tied to her predecessor. A file path labeled /district programs GPI/TrackC/GPI, Gifted Placement Initiative. She clicked. Access denied. She'd expected that. But when she navigated through an older backup archive, she found a mirrored folder, one that hadn't been updated in years. Track C Notes 2013.txt, she downloaded it. And read. Track C. Internal Notes. Subject pool limited to 1 per academic year per institution. Selection criteria: cognitive acceleration, low behavioral volatility, high privacy compliance. Engagement protocol: non-parental notification if flagged green level. Placement window: March to July, pre-graduation. Post-engagement: re-entry discouraged, transcripts sealed. Funding channel: Rutherford Advancement Foundation, allocated under ED waiver. Lena stared at the screen. Rutherford. That name she hadn't heard in years, but something about it echoed with cold familiarity. She searched the district's foundation partnerships. There it was, Rutherford Advancement Foundation, legacy donor since 1995. On paper, they funded academic scholarships and STEM education. In practice, they were funneling students out of school and into... what? What did re-entry discouraged mean? She needed help. Someone outside the school. And she knew exactly who to call. Margaret Harker was a retired English teacher who'd left Morning Ridge under unusual circumstances in 2011, quietly, without ceremony. She'd been one of Lena's early mentors when Lena first began teaching. She still lived in town, still answered her landline, and still used the phrase, "What fresh hell is this?" when someone called before 9 a.m. "This is bigger than a few missing transcripts," Lena said, pacing her car outside Margaret's cottage. "There's a foundation funding this. They're tied directly to the district's old waiver programs." Harker's voice was dry. "What do you want from me?" Context. What do you remember about the name Rutherford? Harker was silent for a moment. Then, carefully, "You sure you want to do this, Lena?" "I think I already have." Harker sighed. "Come by tonight. I'll show you something." Lena arrived at Margaret's home just after sunset. The older woman was waiting on the porch with a worn file box in her lap and 2 mugs of tea. Inside, the house smelled like paper and dried lavender. Books were stacked in every corner. Old class rosters, annotated literature, folders from a time before digital grades and PDF evaluations. Margaret handed her the box. "These are incident reports from the 2000s, things the school buried under administrative language." Lena opened the lid. Each folder held handwritten notes. Student name: Ella Richmond. Date: 2009. Behavior: withdrawn, hypervigilant, reported seeing observers in science class. Outcome: parental withdrawal, record sealed. And another. Student: Gabriel Luna. Incident: panic during mock college interview, repeated phrases, "they're testing empathy." Outcome: expelled. No transcript issued. I remember Ella, Lena whispered. She was on the honor roll. So was Gabriel, Margaret said quietly. So were 5 others in this box. Lena picked up a smaller envelope at the bottom. It was yellowed and unmarked. Inside was a single photograph. A group of students at a round table. Not a school event, no visible teachers, just name tags and folders. One student was barely visible, half turned from the camera. The name tag said Tasha. In the corner of the photo, Lena saw a watermark. Rutherford Advancement Seminar, 2010. Back at home, Lena pulled into the driveway just after 9. Miles' light was off. His door was shut. She knocked gently. "You awake?" No answer. She opened the door anyway. He was asleep, fully clothed, laptop open next to him, glowing faintly. She tiptoed inside and closed the lid. A message blinked briefly on the screen before it went black. Orientation packet received. Full briefing next week. No sender, no footer, just that. Her heart thudded. She tiptoed out and shut the door. Downstairs, Lena opened her laptop and began documenting everything. If this program had gone this far under the radar, she needed records, evidence, names. She created a digital folder. Honor Roll Project inside. She uploaded Tasha's interview, typed transcript. Track C notes, student behavior reports from Harker's file, the Rutherford seminar photo, her own discovery of Miles's involvement. She zipped the folder, encrypted it, and uploaded it to a cloud backup under a decoy label. She wasn't paranoid. She was a mother. At 2:13 a.m., her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. Stop digging. Lena sat up. Another message followed. "We only ever choose the best. Let him become who he's meant to be." She stared at the screen, pulse rising. And then, interference won't be tolerated. Lena didn't sleep after the messages. She lay awake until the sun broke through the blinds, filtering dull gray light across the hardwood floor. At 6:04 a.m., she finally got out of bed, made black coffee, and stood in the kitchen watching the steam rise like a warning. The phone sat on the counter, screen dark, but it felt like it was still watching her. She replayed the message in her mind. Let him become who he's meant to be. Interference won't be tolerated. She had crossed a line, and someone had noticed. But that only made her more certain. Whatever they were doing to these students, it wasn't mentorship. It wasn't enrichment. It was something designed to shape people quietly, completely, permanently. She glanced at the fridge. Miles' class schedule was pinned with a magnetic clip, next to a drawing he'd done in 8th grade. A skyline, thin pencil lines, meticulously shaded. He used to sketch to calm himself. He hadn't drawn anything in months. By the time she reached the school parking lot, Lena was wired, jumpy with caffeine and tension. She parked at the far end of the lot and entered through the back faculty entrance. In her office, she opened her laptop, logged in, and pulled up Miles's official school file. It had been updated overnight. The referral to Track C was now gone. No mention of the program. No note from Dr. Wynne. No mention of the summer intensive. Not even a timestamp showing the deletion. Like it never existed. She checked the audit log. Nothing. Whoever was doing this had system access beyond hers. Lena walked straight to the guidance office. Dr. Wynne was at his desk again, reading from a binder, glasses perched low on his nose. "We need to talk," she said, sharper than she intended. He didn't flinch. "Of course." In private, he gestured to the door. She closed it behind her. "What is Track C?" she asked, cutting to the chase. "And don't lie. I've seen the files. I've talked to Tasha Nguyen." Wynn's face tightened slightly, but he didn't deny it. "It's not what you think." "No, because what I think is that the school, under your guidance, has been funneling honor roll students into a program funded by an outside entity, without parental knowledge or consent." His eyes were still, measured. You're making it sound sinister. Isn't it? Wynne leaned back in his chair, clasped his hands together. There are students, exceptional students, who need opportunities beyond what a classroom can offer. Track C identifies those students, gives them access to real-world problem-solving, leadership growth, ethical development. And what do they get in return? She asked. Isolation? Gaslighting? A vanished diploma? He didn't answer. I know about Rutherford, Lena continued. I know about the sealed transcripts, about the behavior reports. I know there's a list. Finally, a crack in his composure. There is no list, he said flatly. There's only potential. We give it direction. Lena stood. If anything happens to my son, I'll burn this whole place down. Wynne didn't move. Be careful, Lena. Not everything done in the dark is evil. Sometimes it's just preparation. Back in her car, Lena unlocked her phone. Still no new messages. But she noticed something strange. Miles' last text, sent the night before, was now missing. She opened her backups. The message was gone there too. And her cloud folder, the one marked Honor Roll Project, empty. Everything had been wiped. She drove straight home, heart hammering. There, she checked the hard copy backups in her study closet. Still there. She exhaled. One win. She reached for her burner phone, the one she'd used to make her off-grid cloud backup. Dead. Battery? Number. It had been charged. She tried turning it on 3 times before giving up. Someone wasn't just watching her. They were editing her. That evening, she waited until after dinner to speak with Miles. He sat across from her at the table, twirling leftover spaghetti on his fork. He looked tired, paler than usual. There were faint shadows under his eyes. Miles, she said gently, we need to talk about this mentorship program. He sighed. Mom, not this again. I'm serious. I know. So am I. It's fine. It's not fine. She kept her tone calm. They've lied to you, to me. They've removed records, scrubbed files. They wiped your referral form from the system. His expression shifted. Confused, then defensive. I don't care. It's my opportunity, not yours. Miles, you don't know what you're walking into. He dropped the fork with a clang. And you do? You've been controlling my life for years. I'm finally doing something I'm good at. And now you want to shut it down because you're scared of a few redacted files? This isn't about control, Lena said quietly. It's about safety, consent, and your future being decided by people who don't care if you're ready. Miles stood. You never let me be ready, he said. You just want me to stay small and safe and home. He walked upstairs. The door slammed. Later that night, Lena sat in the living room. Lights dimmed, laptop on her knees. She opened a blank Word document. To whom it may concern. She began writing. Everything. Names, programs, foundation links, deleted files, personal conversations, former students. She wrote until the clock passed 1 a.m. Then she saved the document on a USB drive, encrypted it, and placed it inside the hollow base of the lamp in her office. Because she knew now, if anything happened to her, someone would need to know where to look. Lena called in sick. Technically, she wasn't sick, but emotionally, she was fraying at the edges. One more erased file, one more condescending email from the district, and she'd start pulling ceiling tiles off the school board office by hand. She waited until Miles left for school, backpack slung low, earbuds in, no goodbye. When his bus pulled away, she packed a thermos of coffee, a notebook, her hard copy file folder, and the USB drive she'd encrypted the night before. Then she drove. Back to Bridgeville. Back to Tashanguyan. This time, the gas station manager stopped her before she could reach the back of the store. She's not working today. Lena glanced around. No sign of her. She have a lunch break? A shift change? The man narrowed his eyes. She doesn't want to talk to you. Said you might come back. Lena's pulse quickened. "Please, I'm not here to hurt her." She said that's what they always say. He walked off. Lena stood frozen for a few seconds before heading to her car. As she pulled the door open, a slip of paper caught her eye, folded, tucked under her windshield wiper. Her hands shook slightly as she opened it. "I believe you, but stop before they come for him too. T." She didn't stop. She drove straight to the county records office in Fairhaven, not part of the school system, not on any digital server tied to the district. There, she requested archived residential data for Morning Ridge from 2005 to 2020. She gave the clerk a list of 18 names, one student from each year. "Just looking to verify prior addresses," she said. The clerk was helpful, slow, and not very suspicious. It took hours, but by 4 p.m., Lena had a list. Only 10 of the 18 students had valid residential histories that matched school records. 8 didn't. For those 8, property records showed one of two things. They'd never lived where their school forms said they did. They'd been listed at known Rutherford-owned properties, private boarding facilities registered under vague non-profit shells. One address in particular came up 5 times, 98 Willow Run, Kingston, a rural property an hour north, classified as a STEM youth retreat site on paper. Nothing online, no photos, no contact info, no map pin. Lena wrote the address down in her notebook and circled it 3 times. At home, Miles was already back. He sat on the living room couch, laptop open, reading something she couldn't see. She hovered in the doorway for a moment, watching him. He wasn't scared. He wasn't confused. He looked resolved. She stepped into the room. "Miles." He turned, closed the laptop casually. "Hey." She hesitated. "What were you reading?" He shrugged. "Nothing, just some prep work for the mentorship group." She sat down opposite him. "There's something I need to show you," she said. She handed him the folder. He opened it. Photos, reports, old student names. The hand-drawn connection chart Lena had mapped out late last night. Miles flipped slowly through the pages. "You made a whole conspiracy wall?" "It's not a conspiracy," she said gently. "It's a pattern. And it's real." He looked up at her. "You're scared." "I'm angry. And terrified, yes. Not because I don't trust you, Miles, but because I know what happens to people who think they're being chosen for something big and exciting, only to realize they were just being handled." He closed the folder. "What do you want me to do?" he asked, quiet. "Say no. Withdraw. Tell them you're out." He exhaled, rubbed the back of his neck. "They won't make it easy. I don't care. They might do something." Lena leaned forward, fierce and calm. "They already did." He didn't speak for a long time. Then he nodded once. "Okay." At 2:12 a.m., Lena woke to a strange sound outside. Not glass, not footsteps. A soft, electronic whir. She padded to the front window. A dark sedan was parked across the street. Engine running, no headlights. Inside, a figure sat motionless in the driver's seat. Just watching. Lena stood there for several seconds, daring them to move. They didn't. She turned on every light in the house and went back to bed with the USB drive in her hand. The next morning, she sent copies of the honor roll folder to 2 off-grid email addresses, one belonging to a reporter she trusted from a previous school district scandal, and one to a lawyer she'd never met in person but followed on legal blogs. She titled the file, 18 Students. One pattern. Then she sat down to write a letter, addressed not to the board, not to the police, but to the public. "My name is Lena Marlowe. I'm a vice principal at Morning Ridge High School. For over a decade, students on our honor roll have been quietly removed from public life, funneled into a program that operates in shadow, funded, endorsed, and covered up by educational authorities who are either complicit or asleep at the wheel. I am speaking out because my son is next, and I will not lose him. She attached the letter to her emails. She hit send, and for the first time in weeks, she felt like she was moving the needle. Lena didn't go into work the next day. She knew what would be waiting. Unread emails from the board, thinly veiled warnings from HR, maybe even a private meeting with someone sent to check on her. She'd seen what institutional gaslighting looked like. They'd start with concern, then pivot to correction, then isolation. Instead, she sat by the front window, phone in hand, watching for movement across the street. The black sedan from the night before was gone, but she didn't feel safe. Her phone buzzed. From J. Gentry. Got your files, verifying now. If even half of this is real, you're not crazy. You're sitting on a state-level scandal. We'll confirm traceability before we publish. Keep your head down. Lena exhaled for the first time in hours. She wasn't alone anymore. By mid-afternoon, Miles came downstairs from his room, backpack slung over one shoulder. You skipped work again? He asked, voice half curious, half resentful. I did. Is it because of them? Lena didn't answer right away. I sent everything, she said. To a journalist and a lawyer. They have the files. They know. He stopped at the foot of the stairs, expression unreadable. You're not scared. I'm furious, she said. But fear stopped helping a long time ago. He hesitated, then said, what if I liked the idea of the program? What if it felt right? Lena looked at him carefully. Then they picked you well. He flinched. But that doesn't mean they deserve you. At 4:32 p.m., the doorbell rang. Lena froze. Not a knock, a single ring. Clean. Intentionally calm. She opened the door slowly. A woman stood on the porch. Early 50s, slate gray suit, thin smile, clipboard in hand. Her ID badge wasn't visible, but everything about her screamed federal, efficient, quiet, and untouchable. Ms. Marlowe, the woman said. Yes. I'm Director Monroe. May I come in? No. A pause. The woman tilted her head slightly, unoffended. I'm here on behalf of the Rutherford Foundation's Youth Placement Division. I'd like to discuss a misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding. Another pause. I'm not here to threaten you, Ms. Marlowe. I'm here to clarify. Your son was selected through rigorous screening. He passed evaluations no one even knew were happening. He is exceptional. You should be proud. I am proud, Lena said, which is why I'm not handing him over to a group that specializes in vanishing children. Monroe smiled faintly. No one vanishes, Ms. Marlowe. They just move beyond the noise. Lena's voice sharpened. Without transcripts? Without parental consent? You take them away and turn them into, what? Operatives? Algorithms? The woman didn't flinch. We give them purpose. You strip them of identity. We remove distractions. You erase lives. Silence. Monroe's smile faded. Is Miles here? Lena's pulse spiked. Number. And if you come near him again, I'll call every reporter in the state. I think you'll find your reach isn't as wide as you believe. Monroe stepped back, as if finished. Before she left, she looked over her shoulder. Ms. Marlowe, the students we take, they don't come back because they don't want to. They find something better. Something quieter. You can't unmake that choice for him. Lena didn't respond. She closed the door and locked it. Twice. That night, Miles stayed in his room, headphones on, face glowing in the blue light of his monitor. Lena knocked once. He didn't answer. She didn't press. Instead, she opened her laptop and saw a new email from J. Gentry. I verified 4 of the 18 names. 2 went to addresses tied to Rutherford-owned properties. 1 has no legal presence after 2013. 1 listed as deceased, but the death cert looks off. This is real. I'll publish by Monday. Stay safe. Attached to the email was a scanned document. A death certificate for a student named Vincent Choi. dated May 28, 2007. The cause, natural causes. Lena's stomach turned. Vincent had been 17. No medical history, no conditions, just natural causes. At 11:47 p.m., Lena opened her browser and pulled up her original backup files again. She added a new page to the growing document. Known targets with red flags: Aria Lin, no college record, presumed missing; Vincent Choi, declared dead, age 17, suspicious cert; Tasha Nguyen, changed name, vanished for 12 years; Miles Marlowe, current candidate; Track C referral, removed post facto, Selena Ortiz; origin unclear; no public records before 2023. She paused on Selena's name. Something about that still bothered her. The next morning, Lena did something she hadn't done in weeks. She walked into the school, not to teach, not to chase the board. She went to find Selena Ortiz. Guidance told her Selena had checked in late. No note, no parent call. She was somewhere on campus, but not in class. Lena checked the library. Empty. Checked the cafeteria. Quiet. Finally, she found her in the art room, alone, painting a blank canvas over and over in white acrylic, like trying to erase something that wouldn't go away. "Selena," Lena said gently. The girl looked up, expression unreadable. Lena sat beside her. Not close, just enough. "I know." Selena didn't speak for a while, then softly, "They told me not to talk to anyone. They always do. I didn't know they'd pick him too." Lena's breath caught. "You mean Miles?" Selena nodded. "They said we'd be partners." Lena swallowed. "Selena, do you want to go?" The girl stared at the blank canvas. "I don't know how to not go anymore." Lena brought Selena home. It wasn't planned. It wasn't protocol. But when the girl looked at her and whispered, "I can't go back there tonight," Lena made the only decision she could live with. She called in another sick day, told the school Selena was under her care due to a counseling emergency. Nobody asked questions. They never did. Miles was quiet when he saw Selena walk through the door. She gave him a small nod. He looked away. Lena made tea, warmed up leftover soup, and the three of them sat in near silence in the kitchen. Two teenagers with haunted eyes, and a mother trying to hold together a reality none of them had signed up for. "You're both scheduled for orientation," Lena said finally, placing her phone in the center of the table like a live grenade. "Next week, June 3rd, is that right?" Selena nodded. "We're supposed to meet at the train station." "They said we'd get our assignments," Miles added quietly. "What kind of assignments?" Selena stared at the table. "They said we'd be evaluated for placement, that we'd meet people from agencies, that we'd be shown how to think properly, to remove distractions." "You know what that means, right?" Lena said. "It means they're going to isolate you, strip you down until you comply. And if you don't, they erase you." Miles shook his head. "It's not a prison." "No," Lena agreed. "It's worse, because it makes you volunteer for your own disappearance." Selena's lip trembled. Lena reached out gently and covered her hand. "You don't have to go," she said. "They'll come after us. Then we make them work for it." Lena had a plan by morning. It wasn't elegant, but it was real. She'd drive both teens out of state before orientation week. Keep moving, stay ahead of digital traces. She knew enough about surveillance to know what not to do. No credit cards, no phone pings, no logins. She reached out to an old friend who ran a safe house for women escaping domestic violence. Told her the truth, or most of it. The friend said, "If you show up with kids and fear in your eyes, we won't ask questions." Departure, Saturday, 6 a.m. Cover, out-of-state college visit. Route, no highways, no trackers, no second chances. Friday night, Lena packed 2 bags. One for her, one for the kids. The third bag, documents, USBs, backup evidence. She stored in a weather-sealed envelope and hid in the garage insulation. If they ever had to come back, it would be waiting. She took one last look at her house. The living room rug Miles once spilled grape juice on. The tiny pencil lines on the door frame marking his height each year. The fading smell of lemon oil from her mother's antique hutch. A life paused. She turned off the lights. They made it 2 hours out of town before the tail caught them. Black SUV, no plates, appeared in the rearview mirror after they passed a rural gas station. Lena didn't panic. She turned calmly onto a side road, checked again. Still there. She accelerated, took another left. Country roads, no traffic, still behind her. "Miles," she said, her voice low. "Take the phone, pull out the battery." He did. Quick, calm, trained. "Selena, get the envelope from under your seat." She pulled out a thick manila packet. The emergency backup. "Hold on to it," Lena said. "If we're stopped, run. Get to the woods. Find a house. Hand it to the first adult who seems normal." Selena nodded, pale but ready. The SUV surged forward. Miles twisted around. "They're coming up fast." Lena spotted a narrow gravel road and yanked the wheel. Dust exploded behind them. The SUV didn't follow. Silence. A long, slow breath. Then Lena said, "We're changing cars." 3 hours later, they were in a borrowed sedan, courtesy of Lena's friend. Cheap, unmarked, no GPS. They crossed the state line at dusk. Miles was asleep. Selena, too. Lena drove. In the mirror, no one followed. But in her chest, the panic never fully left. She had outplayed them, maybe. But only for now. The safe house was quiet. Rural. Secluded behind a faded white church and an old post office with no working hours posted. Inside, the air smelled like tea and lavender detergent. A small bookshelf lined the entryway. Dog-eared novels, children's books, crossword puzzles left half-finished. Lena sat by the window in the second-floor bedroom, staring out at a gravel road that led nowhere. Selena was asleep on the pull-out couch. Miles was reading silently, a blanket wrapped around his shoulders, eyes bloodshot from too many nights on edge. They were safe. For now. At 10:03 a.m., Lena's burner phone buzzed. From Jay Gentry. "It's live. You're everywhere." She tapped the link. The headline took up the whole screen. "The gifted that disappeared. Inside a decade-long extraction of high-performing students by a secretive educational partnership." By James Gentry, investigative correspondent, published by Herald State Review, June 1st, 2025. Lena read the first paragraph twice. For over a decade, select students from Morning Ridge High School in Southern California were quietly removed from academic rosters through a program known only to a few officials as Track C. These students, all high-performing minors, were funneled into off-grid facilities funded by the Rutherford Advancement Foundation. Most have not been seen since. Her name appeared in the third paragraph, Vice Principal Lena Marlowe, whose son was among the latest students targeted, provided school documents, sealed referrals, and first-hand testimony corroborated by other affected students and former faculty. Further down, excerpts from the file folder. Tasha's story, the photos, Vincent Choi's death certificate, and at the end, the Department of Education declined comment. A representative for Rutherford denied all allegations, calling them unfounded and defamatory. But the truth was out. Every major outlet was picking it up. Lena refreshed her feed. California high school scandal sparks national outrage. LA Daily, where did they go? Gifted program under fire. Vox News, students recruited then erased. Wired. The internet had caught fire. By afternoon, Lena received another message. From Blocked ID. "You've made this public. Now it's our turn." She stared at the screen. No reply sent. She didn't flinch this time. That evening, she held a small meeting with the only people who mattered. Miles, Selena, herself. They sat in the narrow kitchen around a pine wood table dented with age. "You're not ghosts anymore," Lena said softly. "You're people, and they don't get to take you back into the dark." Miles nodded slowly. Selena said nothing, but her shoulders eased. Outside, dusk painted the trees violet. The next day brought media attention Lena hadn't prepared for. Her old number rang off the hook. One voicemail after another. "Can you speak on the record? Would you appear on camera? Do you know where the students are now? Can we meet Miles?" She shut the phone off and pulled the battery. The goal was truth, not spectacle. But truth, it seemed, had a momentum of its own. By the third day in hiding, something shifted. Selena knocked on Lena's door at midnight, whispering, "Can we talk?" Lena nodded. They sat on the porch in the dark, a single bug zapper glowing faintly beside them. "I remember one thing from orientation," Selena said. "They told me if I ever left, I'd be erased. No social, no college, no housing support. They said I'd never be able to prove I existed." Lena looked at her. "And now?" "I'm still scared," Selena admitted. "But at least I'm scared in my own name." Lena reached over, squeezed her hand. "You get to be whoever you want now." Selena didn't answer, but she stayed. That was enough. The following morning, Gentry sent another update. "Rutherford board is imploding. 5 members have resigned. California Ed Secretary calling for an audit. I'm told there's panic. They didn't think you'd take it public. You were right to run. Someone inside leaked internal emails. More coming." Lena stared at the screen, eyes full. She didn't cry. She didn't breathe a sigh of relief. But for the first time since this began, she felt like she was winning. It began with a knock. No one was supposed to know where they were. Lena had given no forwarding address, no calls, no messages since the article went live. The safe house was in a town with no ZIP code on most maps. But someone knocked. Not a doorbell, not pounding, just 3 quick knocks. She opened it slowly. A man stood on the porch. Early 30s, worn jeans, black hoodie, duffel bag slung over one shoulder. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Lena Marlowe," he asked. She didn't answer right away. "I'm Gabriel Luna," he said quietly. "You mentioned me. In the article, the name hit her like a memory punch. Gabriel Luna, honor roll 2011, vanished mid-year, no transcript, behavior flagged." "I read it," he said. "All of it." Lena opened the door wider. "Come in." He sat stiffly at the kitchen table, fingers wrapped around the chipped mug Lena gave him. Steam from the tea rising toward a face that had clearly aged more than the years suggested. "You were part of it?" she asked. Gabriel nodded. "Track C. I was one of the last they tried to fully process. I didn't break the way they wanted." He rubbed his wrists absently, like phantom restraints still pinched. "They told me I was dangerous, that my empathy levels were inconsistent, that I was a failed profile." "What happened after they pulled you out of school?" "They took me to a training center. Not military, not government, something in between. I spent 17 months there." Lena leaned forward. "Doing what?" "Simulations, high-pressure testing, emotional detachment training. They called it neural pattern hardening. They said I needed to stop thinking like a student, start thinking like an asset." His voice cracked. "I tried. I really did." "What changed?" Gabriel looked up. "One day, a girl snapped during an evaluation. She couldn't stop crying. They removed her." He paused. "We never saw her again." Selena sat at the stairs, listening from above. Miles sat beside her. "She's not the first who disappeared," Gabriel said. "There were others. They called it early disqualification. Sometimes they made it sound like the student had gone on to another program. Sometimes they didn't bother lying." "What happened to them?" Lena asked. Gabriel looked at her with hollow eyes. "I think they were institutionalized. Maybe worse. I don't know. But I ran. During a transport drill. I wasn't supposed to, but I had memorized one of the instructor's key codes. Got out, used a fake name, lived quiet, off-grid. I didn't even know anyone else noticed what happened until your article dropped. He reached into his duffel, pulled out a flash drive. This has internal documents I copied before I left. Schedules, names, experiment logs. He slid it across the table. You're not just exposing a school, Lena, you're exposing a system. That night, the four of them sat around the table. Lena, Miles, Selena, and Gabriel. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Lena said, "We can take this to the federal level now. This is evidence." Gabriel shook his head. "It won't be enough." "Why?" "They'll deny everything. Call me unstable. Say the documents are fake. Say I made them under emotional duress. That I'm part of an online hoax." Miles asked, "So what do we do?" Gabriel looked at him. "We make it unignorable." By dawn, Lena had a plan. They would go public again. This time with Gabriel at the front. They'd share his story, the documents, and video testimony. Not through the media, directly to the public. A live stream, hosted by a youth advocacy group, shared across platforms. Irrefutable, raw, first person. Gabriel agreed. He didn't smile, but he didn't flinch either. The broadcast went live at 7:05 p.m. on June 4th. Over 100,000 viewers tuned in during the first 10 minutes. By the end of the hour, they'd reached 1 million. Gabriel sat calmly in front of the camera, described everything: names, procedures, emotional drills, mentors who vanished overnight, the girl who disappeared, the night he escaped. Then came the documents. Screen shared, verified, watermarked with the name of a facility no one had mentioned publicly before. The recalibration site, Willow Run. And then, finally, the list of students. Each name, each year, each false transfer, each lie. Comments flooded in. "I remember Tasha. We thought she transferred. I'm shaking. My cousin was on that list. They did this to our children. For what?" Then media reposts, official reactions, think pieces, and finally, a tweet from the governor's office. Effective immediately, a full investigation will be launched into the Rutherford Foundation and all educational affiliates. Subpoenas forthcoming. Lena read it and felt the world tip in her favor. Later that night, after the cameras stopped and the stream ended, Lena stood outside on the porch. The stars above the safe house were brighter than they'd ever been. She looked up and whispered, "They're not invisible anymore." Behind her, Selena stepped outside. Quiet. Steady. "Do you think there are more?" she asked. Lena nodded. "Yes, but now they'll know they're not alone." 3 days after the live stream, everything started to break. Not just at Morning Ridge, not just in California, but across the country. The Department of Education issued a statement admitting it was investigating irregularities tied to enrichment programs operating without appropriate oversight. The Rutherford Foundation's website went dark. 3 board members from the Morning Ridge School District resigned in the same hour, and at least 2 other high schools were identified by independent journalists as running pilot versions of Track C. All had eerily similar honor roll anomalies. Lena watched it all unfold from the living room of the safe house, news blaring from her laptop, updates flying across the screen like ticker tape from a war zone. Her name was everywhere now. Some people called her a hero, others a whistleblower. A few whispered, "unstable administrator," planted narratives from powerful people scrambling to discredit her. But they couldn't scrub the truth anymore. There were too many witnesses now, too many cracks in the wall. Gabriel sat beside her, fielding emails from lawyers and advocacy groups. Every hour someone wanted an interview, a deposition, a comment for a podcast. He declined most of them. But he saved one name in particular, Senator Clarissa Voss, chair of the National Education Reform Committee. Her staff had emailed directly. "We believe you. The committee will meet in emergency session. We want you there." Gabriel didn't say yes. Not yet. But the fact that the invitation came at all was a signal. The system was blinking. Miles, meanwhile, had retreated into himself. He didn't talk much. He was processing, deconstructing everything he'd almost believed. Every promise, every opportunity, every test he thought he'd passed. He stayed in the attic room most days, notebook open, writing lists. One evening, Lena walked in quietly. "What are you working on?" Miles looked up. "Just trying to map who I was. Before all of this." She sat beside him. He held out a page. At the top, he'd written, "What I chose on my own." Below it, learning physics, drawing skylines, helping Selena fix her bike, staying up late for star showers, saying no. She ran her fingers over the list. "Those are still yours," she whispered. Selena had changed, too. Each day she grew a little more solid, less ghost, more person. She started helping around the safe house, cooking, sorting, organizing. Quiet, efficient strength. She spent time with Gabriel. Not talking, just being near someone who understood. She still didn't talk about what they'd done to her, but she didn't hide from it anymore. And one night she asked Lena softly, "If we make it out of this, do you think I could go back to school?" Lena smiled. "Yes, wherever you want." Selena nodded. Not a dream, a plan. Then, on June 10th, Lena received a knock at the back door. The coded knock, 2, pause, 2. It was Rachel, her contact from the legal group coordinating the class action case. She handed Lena a flash drive and a sealed folder. "This is what broke the Senate wide open," Rachel said. "They found Rutherford's internal communications, between board members, between administrators, between people who said they didn't know anything." She paused. "And one from your own school." Lena opened the folder. A letter, signed, stamped, email form. It was from Dr. Joseph Wynn. Subject, Track C, Marlowe Boy Placement Finalization. Date, 2 weeks before Lena ever found the folder. In it, Wynn thanked a Rutherford liaison for confirming Miles's eligibility. He wrote, "Lena will not be a problem. If she resists, we'll move forward anyway. She's more sentimental than strategic." Lena read the sentence 3 times, then folded the paper and set it on the table. Rachel spoke again. "They're going to bring charges, Lena. Against Wynn, against the board, against the foundation. The Senate committee wants you to testify." Lena didn't blink. When? The hearing date was set for July 3rd. D.C. national broadcast. Open to press and public. The committee would hear from Lena, from Gabriel, from Tasha, who had agreed to testify remotely, and from the parents of the disappeared, those who had always believed something was wrong but never had the proof. Now they did, and they had Lena. Back at the safe house that night, Lena sat by the window again. The stars were out. Miles and Selena were asleep. Gabriel was downstairs, typing his statement. She took out her notebook and wrote, "They didn't break us. They turned us into a signal." The Capitol hearing room was larger than Lena imagined. Cold, lit with harsh fluorescence. A long oak desk stretched across the raised platform where the senators sat like judges in a silent trial. Rows of seats behind her were already filled. Media, advocacy groups, educators, parents. And somewhere in the very back, she spotted a familiar flash of dark hair. Tasha, watching, brave just by being there. Beside Lena sat Gabriel, calm, composed, his suit slightly too large, his hands folded neatly in front of him like a student who had finally earned his right to speak. To Lena's left sat her lawyer. To her right, silence. They had reserved the chair for Dr. Joseph Wynn. He wasn't late. He wasn't coming. The chairman tapped the gavel at 9 a.m. sharp. Today's session concerns the unauthorized extraction of minor students from accredited public education institutions under the guise of gifted programs funded by the Rutherford Advancement Foundation. He adjusted his glasses. We are here to hear the truth. They called Gabriel Luna first. He rose, stepped to the microphone, and swore in. His testimony was clinical, restrained, terrifying. He walked the room through everything: the facility, the drills, the lies. He described the mental recalibration protocols, the empathy filters, the way they were told to forget their families, to trust only the system. They didn't want thinkers, he said, voice steady. They wanted instruments, tools, and when I resisted, I was labeled unstable. The senators listened in stunned silence. One of them asked, "Why come forward now?" Gabriel looked directly at Lena. Because someone finally noticed. Lena was called next. She took the oath. She didn't read a statement. She spoke from memory, about being a mother, an educator, about the folder she found, the names erased, the girl in the gas station, the boy who drew skylines and almost disappeared into silence. They didn't take students, she said, voice catching. They took futures. They took trust. They turned education into recruitment. She placed the photo of Vincent Choi on the table. He was 17, listed as natural causes. But he wasn't sick. He wasn't even supposed to be missing. He was just another name on a list. The room was still. I'm here because I will not lose my son, and I will not let another mother read a transcript with her child's name missing. A beat. I have nothing else to say. The questioning was intense but fair. Senator Voss asked if Lena believed other programs like this existed. Yes, she said. Why? Because power doesn't operate in one place. It replicates wherever no one's watching. They nodded. Then the final moment came. A staffer brought in a sealed envelope, passed it to the chairman. He opened it, read, then turned to the microphone. We have received a sworn affidavit from Dr. Joseph Wynn, dated this morning, admitting to knowledge of Track C and authorizing student placements without parent consent, including Ms. Marlowe's son. He has resigned from his post and is currently in protective custody pending federal charges. A murmur passed through the room. Lena sat, still. A strange relief filled her. Not triumph, not satisfaction. Just the air returning to her lungs. After the hearing, Lena stepped outside into the sun. Reporters shouted questions. She ignored them. Behind her, someone touched her arm. Miles. He had flown in with her lawyer, quietly, after the committee extended an invitation. He looked at her like he was still trying to believe everything. You did it, he said. She looked at him. No, she said. We did. In the following weeks, everything moved fast. Rutherford Foundation assets were frozen. An independent task force was assembled to investigate all student disappearances linked to Track C. Civil suits were filed. Class action status approved. Former students began coming forward, 23 by mid-July. And for the first time in over a decade, Morning Ridge School Board held an emergency town hall open to the public. Lena didn't attend. She didn't need to. She had already said everything she needed. On July 15th, she received a letter, handwritten, no return address. Thank you. You were right. I wasn't erased, just buried. You helped me dig out. Ayelaria Lynn alive. That night, Lena sat on the porch of a new house in a new town. Miles was asleep inside. Selena was drawing again, her sketch pad covered in blue ink lines, rooftops, and wide-open skies. Gabriel had taken a position at a youth advocacy center. Quiet, powerful work. The world had shifted. And somewhere, the list was finally being replaced by something better. A record of who they were and who fought for them to remain whole. Subscribe and stay with us as we bring the rest into the light.